Welcome to the grammar class. Today we are going to have adjective clauses as a topic. But today Lisa is going to give us two videos. Let's watch it.
Hello. Today's lesson is on adjective clauses with subject-relative pronouns who and that. You know that housework is not my favorite thing to do. Well, guess what? I'm not alone. According to the article, housework is something that most people don't like to do. In fact, there's a holiday for people who don't like housework. No Housework Day is a special day that takes place on April 7th. It's for anyone that wants to take a break from dusting, vacuuming, or washing the dishes. Let's look at these sentences. There's a holiday for people who don't like housework. It's for anyone that wants to take a break. In these sentences, we use adjective clauses to identify or describe people. In the first sentence, the adjective clause who don't like housework describes people. In the second sentence, the adjective clause that wants to take a break describes anyone. Notice, we can introduce adjective clauses about people with who or that. Now look at these sentences. Housework is something that most people don't like to do. No Housework Day is a special day that takes place on April 7th. In these sentences, we use adjective clauses to identify or describe things. In the first sentence, the adjective clause that most people don't like to do describes something, housework. In the second sentence, the adjective clause that takes place on April 7th describes a special day, no Housework Day. Notice, we can introduce adjective clauses about things with that. We cannot use who. Be careful. We can say, there's a holiday for people who don't like housework, or there's a holiday for people that don't like housework.
Now we are going to watch the second video.
Hello. Today's lesson is on adjective clauses with object-relative pronouns who, whom, and that. I went to a dinner party last night. It was great. The people who gave the party were excellent cooks. The guests who they invited were really interesting. I hope I can go to the next party that they give. Let's look at the first sentence. The people who gave the party were excellent cooks. In this sentence, the clause who gave the party is an adjective clause. It modifies or describes the people. In this adjective clause, the relative pronoun who is the subject of the verb gave. Remember that when the relative pronoun is the subject of the verb in the adjective clause, we can use the relative pronouns who or that for people. We use that for things. We can say, the people who gave the party were excellent cooks, or the people that gave the party were excellent cooks. Now let's look at the next two sentences. In the sentence, the guests who they invited were really interesting. The clause, who they invited, is also an adjective clause. It modifies or describes the word guests. Here, though, the relative pronoun who is the object of the verb invited. When the relative pronoun is the object of the verb in the adjective clause, we can use the relative pronouns who, that, or whom for people. For example, we can say, the guests who they invited were really interesting, or the guests that they invited were really interesting. We can also use whom for people when the relative pronoun is the object of the verb in the clause. Whom is more formal. We usually use whom in academic writing and business letters, and who in speaking. The guests whom they invited were really interesting. In the sentence, I hope I can go to the next party that they give, the clause that they give is an adjective clause also. It modifies or describes the word party. The relative pronoun that is the object of the verb give. Notice that we can use only that since party is a thing and not a person. When the relative pronoun is the object of the clause, it may be omitted. For example, we can omit the word who from the sentence, the guests who they invited were really interesting, and say, the guests they invited were really interesting. We can omit the word that from the sentence, I hope I can go to the next party that they give, and say, I hope I can go to the next party they give.
Thank you, Lisa. Now I am going to include a chart. This chart, you can find it in your books on page 231 and 232. I hope that these explanations and examples that I gave you will help you to work on your task. See you soon. Bye bye.